Last spring, Duke Opera Theater was working on a program inspired by Romeo and Juliet. We had scenes from Gounod's opera Romeo and Juliet, the Bernstein West Side Story, as well as some piano music by Prokofiev and some actors from the theater program doing monologues. It was a really crushing blow to us when school was canceled in the middle of March and we couldn't really finish the project we had worked so hard on. I felt particularly sad for my seniors who had invested so much time over the years in opera theater and wouldn't get to give their final performance. One day while in quarantine, I was feeling kind of sorry for myself and sorry for my students, and I reached out to Jacob Liang. Jacob had done particularly great work in his Romeo and Juliet scene, especially with the friar's big aria when he explains to Juliet this poison that he has that will make her appear as dead, but then come back to life after a certain amount of time. So I just reached out to Jacob and I said, if I record you the accompaniment, would you like to sing the aria? I didn't know how we would use it or if we would ever use it or if just he and I would enjoy it. So in a moment of inspiration, I sat down and played the piano part and emailed it off to Jacob. And through the wonders of technology in his apartment here in Durham, he recorded this version of that aria last spring.
What's this battling closes? If you drink, then a chill from the limbs to the heart, or your frame shall a thrill. That as dead your warm life reposes in your veins. At once the blood ceasing to flow shall soon to pearly ashes turn, where o'er a glow a bloom in the fairest of roses. Your eyes shall lose their sight and close as if in death. In vain cries of alarm shall sound as seek to waken. She is no more, she is no more, shall mourn your companions forsaken. And the angels of heaven shall reply, she but sleeps, she but sleeps, she but sleeps. Within the day shall your heart feel a striving, as when a chilly heart form a flame is reviving, and your heavy sleep you shall then forsake. Oh, shadowed by the night with your spouse I will see you. We shall be nigh when you awake, and you shall flee away with him whom they deny you. And you shall flee away with him whom they deny you.
Hello, my name is Nathaniel Maxwell. I am a sophomore here at Duke, and I am currently studying a class called Music 361. It's the second class in the tonal music series, and it is taught by Professor Anthony Kelly. In the last couple of weeks, I finished up a project that was based on a theme and variations. And so the project itself is part of a larger work that is going to be a sonata. And in the class, the assignment was to start with a theme and variation as being the second movement of the sonata. One, because theme and variations is something that's useful not only as an individual piece, but it's something you can utilize in a lot of different writings. And also it provides a nice sort of structure to start out with writing your first piece. Gives you the freedom to play around with things, but also you have a pretty good, clear idea of the structure that you need to follow in order for your piece to be a theme and variation. So for those of you who aren't entirely familiar with the theme and variation, we basically just start with a little idea. And then we play it again, this time with a little bit of different inflections. And then you could even transfer the voice to your left hand. You could maybe make it in a major key instead of a minor. There's so many different things that you could do with theme and variations. And so it was a lot of fun to work on this project and to explore a lot of different areas of music using a lot of the techniques that I've learned in both 261 and 361. So in class, we covered a series of chords called augmented sixth chords, and they're very similar to a chord that is in first inversion, with the fact that the sixth of that chord is raised. So you could have that's a typical first inversion G minor chord, but as soon as you raise that sixth, there's an augmented sixth. So this was a concept that we had just learned in music theory, and so I was looking to implement it into my writing. And so I had a passage where it went something of that sort, and I decided to maybe add a little bit of a German plus six chord in, just to highlight that passing sequence with a little bit of spice, if you will, adding a augmented sixth chord in. So that was definitely one way that the stuff that I was learning in class was directly impacting my thought process while writing. I think one thing that I enjoyed about this project was, and also surprised me a little bit, was when all of the different variations came together. You know, when you're writing a theme and variations, it's very easy for them to be completely distinct from each other and not have anything stylistically in common. But when they all came together, it was nice to hear a progression in sort of from like a typical something you would typically expect in a piece to something more exploratory by the time you got to the end of the piece. And so in that aspect, it was fun to see the individual parts of the variations come together. So when you're performing the stuff that you're composing, a lot of times, so for me, having this keyboard while I was composing was really helpful, because I could play something out and maybe it was technically, theoretically correct, but if it didn't feel good in my hands while I was playing it, then it was probably something I left out. So in that aspect, knowing that this was probably going to be performed definitely had a big part in how I composed it, because I wanted to make sure not only did it follow all the theory rules, it also sounds good and feels good to the player. As a final result of this project, I definitely want to give a lot of thanks to Professor Kelly for helping me and guiding me through all of the writing and the processes involved in turning out what has been quite a fun project. So thank you, Professor Kelly.
everyone. My name is Rosine Giles. I'm an assistant professor of music here at Duke, and I am very happy to be able to introduce to you a performance of Bach's first cello suite performed exquisitely by Caroline Stinson. While I spend most of my time reading, writing, and researching about the history of music, in the last few months, I, like most of you, have been thinking a lot about the relationship between musicians, performers, and how music has a really important role to play in our everyday lives. The piece that you're about to hear is a cello suite by Johann Sebastian Bach, who is probably the most well-known composer of the Baroque period, which is the period of music that I study. Bach's music is truly remarkable for a lot of different reasons, but one of the reasons why his music is so extraordinary is that despite the fact that the notes themselves haven't changed for hundreds of years, Bach's music seems to adapt with times, and it can tell us things about what it means to be human and all of the things that bind us together. There is something very versatile about Bach's music, and it remains relevant and changes as we do. So the piece that you'll hear is for solo cello, and there is something particular about these cello suites, I think, that is very comforting to us in this period where so many of us are separated from some of our friends and family and find ourselves spending a lot of time isolated. The piece is for a solo cello, and while a cello technically can play more than one note at the same time, this is a really contrapuntal piece of music. It allows one musician to play in counterpoint, even though most of the time the musician's only playing one note. So it's a very meditative kind of piece. The first movement is a prelude, which has a very improvisatory quality to it. And I think that the contemplation that this type of music, especially Bach's solo music for cello, allows us to think about all of the things that are bothering us at this period, the things that are that we hold dear. It's just a very introspective kind of music that I think is very soothing in these times. So enjoy the first movement, the prelude, from Bach's first cello suite in G major. The next movement is an Allemande. So Bach's cello suites comprise stylized dances, which are really interesting because, of course, there's only one person playing and no one's actually dancing. Although if you feel the urge to dance, please take the opportunity. So the first movement is an Allemande. Another thing that I've been contemplating as I think about music, musicians, performance, and how it affects us is that when, in normal circumstances, we would usually go to a concert hall to hear a concert. And any of you who have experienced that know that there is a really special kind of intimacy that is created between the performers themselves and the audience members, but also between the audience members, because music allows us to communicate in ways that are very different. And in this case, it allows us to communicate without words. So there's a lot that we've lost at this point, in the sense that we're no longer able to go to concerts and we're no longer able to feel that kind of intimacy that live performance creates. On the other hand, a lot of us are experiencing music at the present moment through live streams, through recordings like this one, that bring music into our homes. And paradoxically, it allows us to catch a glimpse of performers at home and in ways that we usually don't see them. So I'm sure you've all experienced some kind of live stream or Zoom meeting where a child or a pet interrupts a performance or any other kind of interaction. But there is something very special, despite the fact that we're all separated, that we can still share these experiences somehow and see how musicians are still bringing this kind of music into our lives. So the second movement of the cello suite, the Allemande. While it's wonderful to be able to hear this music performed even though we can't actually be together, one of the things that I miss a lot from live performances is the acoustics of particular spaces, really hearing strings vibrate and all of those idiosyncrasies of real sound. Because now so much of the music that we're able to experience is digital or it's filtered through speakers, so it's not quite the same kind of experience. But on the other hand, there are places now during the pandemic where music is sort of infiltrating, the music is sort of coming into spaces that we don't usually have music in, and that is something that is unprecedented. People have been giving concerts in the middle of their streets for their neighbors. People have been making music in the strangest but most wonderful ways. And it's really a wonderful kind of testament to how important music is in all of our lives. It's not something that is excessive or something that is above and beyond the things that we need in order to survive. It's something that is so fundamental to being human. So I hope that you'll enjoy Courante from Bach's Cello Suite, and do take the time to use this music to help you heal and to bring us together even though we are apart. Enjoy.